Hello guys, and welcome back to one of my tutorials, this time about mixing drums. I've done a previous video where I exported the drums from Superior Drums using the bouncing feature. So let's proceed. And what I've done here, I've got here my edit window where I've got this simple drum loop, and it sounds like this. We've got a kick, snare top, a hat, and an ambient microphone. There's no snare bottom here, just snare top. Just three parts of the drum, really simple. Then I've got some plugins here going on, but first I'm going to open my mix window. It's everything here. And all the faders are at 0 dB, so probably this is going to clip. I'm going to put play and see what happens. As you guys can see by the master fader, when I play the drums, there's not much of a headroom. It's almost on 0 dB. Check it out. So there's not much space for improvement. So one tip I've seen in other videos, Graham from the recordingrevolution.com, and this is a useful tip from other engineers, is to insert this plugin. This works in any DAW. So I'm using Pro Tools, but if you're using Logic or Cubase or any other, it works. Anyway, this plugin called Trim. Basically what I'm doing is reducing the signal in every track, in every audio track, by 10 dBs. You can reduce more, of course, but doing this, you increase your headroom on the final stage, in this case, on a master fader. So first I'm going to, this is in bypass, I'm going to engage the plugin on every track, okay? And if I press play now, things are much quieter, and if you look here at the master fader, you can see the volume when the drums play is not nearly as it was before by the 0 dBs. Minus 10 probably here. Alright, so one thing I've did also, I think it's very important, is to group all your drums. So I've got here my snare, kick, hats, and they're all going to a drum sub. You can rename it the way you want to. It's like I had an auxiliary track, and here she is, the auxiliary track for drum sub, and I routed all my drums into this drum sub. Here I can control the overall volume of the drums. And insert certain effects like compression, so you can glue your drums. This is a common technique. I know I've learned all these techniques. It's a little difficult in this stage for me to explain everything detailed, but this video is just to show you how the guys, how the pros do it, and it's some tips you might find useful for mixing your drums. This is the beginner stage, remember that. Also, I did some parallel compression, I think it's called like that, where I've routed some of the signals here, the kick and the snare in this case, and I created another auxiliary track called Drum Slam, and I routed the sends from the tracks kick and the snare into this Drum Slam. Drum Slam, in this case, the thing is you had another form of compression, but a more aggressive one, and you mix it with the rest of the drum, with those kits, those pieces of the drum, those part kits, whatever you want to call it, kick and snare. And if you have more stuff going on, you can mix with more stuff and add a little more of aggressive setting of a compressor, and give a little more of a compressed sound. It's a technique used by some mixers, engineers, and it really works to bring out your snare, maybe your kick drum also during the mix if they are not sufficiently loud. and you don't want to ruin your master fader by clipping. Another thing I did was to create another auxiliary track. In this case, it's a drum verb. It's a simple reverb plugin, and some of the tracks are going to have reverb. Let me just engage here. Okay, the sends, other sends. Pro Tools has this kind of layout, but Autodaw's it's the same thing. So I've sent, in this case, the snare top and the hi-hats to a reverb. Simple reverb in a simple setting. Remind you, just remind that I'm going to use just presets, and I think it's a good thing for a beginner to use presets and see how they work. From there, you can see, can make your own adjustments, not watching the values, but by your ear is the best friend, so you can have your best tone, because compression affects the tone of the recorded signal. So I've got everything here. As you guys can see, the pan knobs are all in the center, in the middle, and only this overhead mic, it's left and right, okay, because it's a stereo track and the others are mono. So the signal is going to come out, on every one of these tracks when I engage the compressor and stuff like that. So we started by trim the signal. It's okay. Now you can have EQ first or compression first. It's up to you. It's depending on your sounds, on your overall mixing. One thing does affect the other, but in a good way. There's no right or wrong first compressor or first EQ. It's up to you. And I'm starting EQ first. Let's check it out, the compression. So I'm going to start soloing the kick drum. As you guys can see, the kick drum also, the microphone captures a little bit of the snare, and even the hi-hats are there. You can insert a gate, so you can only hear the kick, but I think it stays cool. The bleeding is really cool to enhance the sound. And I'm going to put here my compression. This is a stock plugin. Every DAW has a stock plugin, so you can start with your stock plugin, and probably every DAW also on the stock plugin has a preset. So you're going to recall that preset. I have two options, kick tight, kick thump. Let's check out both. In this case, on this preset, we're not having any, if you see here this meter, any gain reduction. So if I start to mess around in my threshold knob, which I'm going to do while playing, and see if I get some gain reduction around here. Okay, one thing I've learned also, don't worry too much about these values, about the ratio. Start with the presets and work from there. Okay, now we see a gain reduction about -5, I guess. Probably that. And I'm going to leave the attack and release every setting as it is. I'm going to just click here on the threshold. And now if I have a gain reduction about -5 or something, I'm going to my gain knob, which every plugin also, and compensate for that gain reduction. If it was -5, I'm going here and put 5 dBs. Let's check out. Bypass now. Okay, so this is a good start point. Let me check out the other kick thump and see how it sounds. Also, there's no gain reduction. That we have a different attack and a different release probably. I'm gonna start to move the threshold. This is more aggressive, so I'll stick to the kick tight. Don't worry about the knobs and about the values. If it has to come here, do it. You know, if it sounds good, do it. I want to leave it around here and increase now by 5 dBs. If you mess around with the attack and your release, you'll see that the tone will change. and that's really important, but let's leave that for another video. So I assume now my compression is made around here. One thing important I can do here, EQ wise, I've got something here going on, but I'm going to reset this to factory default. And important stuff here, it's always about the high pass filter. So I'm going to engage one on my EQ, also a stock plugin in Pro Tools. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to high pass for around 50, because there's not much of a difference in this kind of low hand, you know, unless you're mixing something with and you need a low hand for some kind of subwoofer or stuff like that, you're not really going to listen. So what happens is, if you don't cut, and I advise you to cut everything on your track around 40 or 50, it's really important to make your mix sounds brighter and not muddy, you know, because all this stuff adds, and from one track to another it keeps adding low end, you just don't need it. So let's check out bypass first. Now it's on. It's ringing, it's cool, and you didn't even notice. If you want more of a low hand on the kick, you can come here to this next frequency around 100 hertz, right? And increase your value. So I'm gonna start increasing and play. I'm gonna go crazy with this. It's a huge boost, but I don't care. If it sounds good, it sounds good. Stay like that. Because I don't have a kick sub, which would be another track here with another microphone to give me that low end. So I'll just use this one. Notice here I increase here about 3Ks. Just to give that high hand on the kick, just a little bit. And I decrease here about 1-2 decibels. Getting reduction here on 200 hertz. I mean, to make things clear. Low bypass. And now engage it. Okay, it's sounding better. So as always, you can come here and choose one preset. Kick drum. There's another stuff like head attack, head snap. You know, just choose one. I normally do things like this. If I have another kick drum here with all the low hand, I won't do this huge boost I just did. Don't worry about boosting stuff. Probably you'll see a lot of videos you don't have to boost about 7-8 dBs like I did, but if you need and if it sounds good, don't worry about the values. That's just the way it is. Use your ears instead. So I think the kick is cool. You can mix all the drums together also, but I prefer to do these things separately. So one thing at a time. Let's listen to our snare top. Let's start with the compression, or maybe the EQ, and I've had some EQ here. I'm going to factory default stuff, and I'm gonna also make a high pass filter around. You can go higher here. Let's listen. Okay, it's cool around here. I'm gonna have a little more bite, around 2K maybe. Let's try. First I'm gonna increase a lot to see where the sound is. I'm gonna move my frequency knob. I probably want it here, but not so much. Let's bypass. Okay, sounds better like this. A little brighter, snappier. I think it's like this. And now I'm going to get my snare compression as as a factory plugin. Now it's in bypass. I'm going to engage it now. Once again, all the stock plugins and all the presets, they have their values already set up, but the threshold, it's always kind of not working. It's like it stays engaged because there's no gain reduction. So I'm going to start to move the threshold until I'll see gain reduction around -3 or -6. Right, it's coming here -3, -4, so I'm going to increase my gain because I just still, what compression is doing, it's reducing your signal, in some way compressing the sound, right? So you lose some volume, and you want to compensate with your gain knob here, so I'm going to put it by 3. And but one thing you don't want to do is, the sound after the compression is perceived as louder, but it's not really louder, it's just more compressed. So you don't, by doing the bypass, you can control the gain knob by doing bypass, and then again gain knob until you see there's not much of a difference in volume. Let's check out. Okay, I can increase it a little more. Bypass now. Engage. Decrease. Alright, I'm going to leave it like this. The idea is to make the initial attack. If you come here to your snare, and let's just zoom in here a little bit. The idea is to make, like I see in other videos, to make this first, you guys can see there's a tail here, right? And the idea is to make everything sound like it would be the same size, all this little wave. So there's this first strike, first engine, and it's much louder, then decreases. And by compressing, the idea is to make everything uniform. Let's see the hats. Let's see the EQ first. Oh, sorry. Let me engage here. Okay, I had something like this. I'm going to my presets and see what's happening here. First preset. Second one. Third. This is more I'm looking for. Clean hi-hats. Let's stick with this one. There's a high pass filter, also as you guys can see, to 180 Hertz, and then an increase here on the 10 keys, about 3 dBs. I'm sorry, this in English is a little difficult for me. And I want this a little bit more of a clean hi-hat with no information here because you don't need it. And last, I got here the overhead mic. Let's start with EQ, let's listen in bypass. Okay, what I've done here, once again, high pass filter, and I increase the highs at 6 kilohertz, and I decrease here at 200 hertz to get rid of the muddiness. Because these are overheads, you don't need this all of this bass information around here. Compression wise, I'll leave this up to you because I like to compress a lot the overheads, you know, and then blend it with the rest of the drum kit so it sounds really big. So let's start to listen and make some adjustments. Okay, it's compressing a lot. It's coming around here. The ratio is about 10. That's bypass. Okay, we have almost the same volume. I really don't care about the other settings around here. I just want to compress it a lot, and We'll talk about the attack and the release and the ratio in another video. Okay, so stays as it is. Now let's listen to the drums. Make some adjustments here on the faders, and you can mess around with your pen knobs also, because there's two ways. There's the perspective drummer, where if you're in a drummer's position, you would put your snare top around to the left, right? And there's the audience perspective, where your snare would be on the right. You can make these adjustments to your taste. Usually I leave it around here in the middle. I just mess around here with my faders to get an overall balance. Balance is the key factor in any mix. You have to have a good balance using compression, EQ, or not using none of that. So I'm gonna just play and mess around here with the faders. Really dry sound. I prefer to put the hi-hats on a lower, because I prefer the sound given by the overheads. It's not so dull or harsh if I put this over here. So okay, sounding good. So next I'm going to my drum sub, and my drum sub is going to have this plugin. Okay, I'm using an SSL compressor because it's a mix bus plugin, and this is a bus. But you can use any other kind of compression. It works with any other compression, right? This one sounds really cool, and I'm going to get a preset once again. There's a lot of presets here from Chris Lord Alge and Dave Varon, Dave Pensado, you know, even for certain aspects of the drum. But I'm going to leave the way I like it, or maybe using a preset. Let's start with like this one, CLA SL Finalizer, which it's emulating a CLA compressor. So the settings are this on bypass, and I'm going to engage it. It's very subtle, but if you're using headphones or a good mixing room, you're gonna listen to the difference. It makes your drums kind of fluid, you know. Let's check it out again. The needle is hardly moving. I'm going to increase here a bit the threshold, just so you guys can see how it works. All right, now it's moving little bit. There's nothing of gain reduction, of makeup gain, so I could make up gain here. I want to keep this very low, hardly moving, and just by 1.5 dBs increase the gain. You guys can see it gives it glues your drums, gives more a solid sound. So right now I'm gonna head to my another auxiliary track where I have my another compression here. This time by DJ Design. This is a compression, comes with Pro Tools, and I've got this on a setting called Pump. Okay, so it's a extreme compression. What I'm gonna do is mix it with some parts of the kit, like I said before. So I created this sense, and I'm going to put they are already on 0 dBs. Okay, just engage them. And now let's start by hearing just the kick, and by increasing this fader here, you're gonna hear the signal mixed with the original signal drum slam. Okay, there we go. Gives you volume, it gives you more bite. Let's check out on the snare. Okay, I'm gonna bring a copy of this to my overhead and see what it sounds like on the overheads. Gives a very open sound, a little bit like Led Zeppelin or stuff like that. So I'm going to keep it 0 dBs now, disengage I mean, and listen to drums, and then I'm going to increase to see how it sounds like. Okay, I think around here sounds cool. If you increase a lot, you give a lot of volume, overall volume, and decrease your headroom. Okay, the last track, last auxiliary track I create here is a drum verb, and I've just had sent to the snare top and the hi-hats to hear a little bit of reverb on the snare. And let's start by hearing the snare and see, engage the plugin. It's a stock plugin also. It's a small hall. Let me just put this in plate and medium plate, see what it sounds like. So there you go. Okay, sounds good to me. Let's go to my hi-hats and see how it sounds. Just a little bit of reverb. You're hearing the snare because this one is in pre-fader mode, and I'm going to do the same to this one, so you can control your volume here independent from your fader around here. Okay, around here is very important, this part. So when you're reducing the reverb, you're just reducing the reverb, not the overall volume. I'm gonna close this, just a little bit of reverb. So this is all routed like for drum sub, and those sends are for drum slam, and these sends are for drum verb. Then I'll go to other auxiliary track I've created called the submix, which is here, where I can insert more of compressor effects on EQs without having to put anything in a master fader. You don't want to put anything in your master fader in the mixing stage, because you're just mixing, and if you're sending your stuff to other engineer, you know, to master your track, you'll want to have headroom so you can mess around with the track and give more volume and compression and stuff like that. And if you send your material very hot levels, it's not a good thing. So keep an eye here and see if it's always around -6 or -7 or around something like that. And if it doesn't clip at all, it's very bad. So my submix is kind of a pre-master, you know, where I can give a little bit of compression without affecting my master fader, which is going to have nothing. What I've done here also is I've put here a send, the drum verb, and this way, by putting a send here on my drum sub, I'm affecting all the kit. So I'm going to play and mess around here with the reverb so you guys can hear it. So everything now is kind of wet. I just give a little bit so everything will have a little bit of reverb, you know. This is independent from the level you decided here on the drum verb. So I get a little reverb on the kick also, and on the overhead mic. So let's listen back and see how it sounds like. I'm going to disengage all the plugins first. All right, and now I'm going to engage everything we've done till here. I think it's okay. Well, I think it sounds much better. So this is a video to beginners. There's an extensive knowledge on the internet, extensive information, I mean, about compression, how it works, and it's really not very difficult, but sometimes we understand it for you and it's hard to explain for others, which it's happening right now in my case. And I'll make a video tutorial explaining compression and how you guys can work with compression on a beginner level. That's how I learned by watching other videos. There's a lot of great stuff there. Check out the recordingrevolution.com because it really explains how stuff works and makes things really simple. And the best thing you can make is start with presets. They give you a good guide where the knobs are. Go from there and experiment and use your ears. Don't be afraid to cut or boost by large amounts of dBs. Doesn't matter. Even if an engineer tells you you don't have to do that, or shouldn't have to do that. But if it sounds good, if you really need it, just use it. Use your ears. It's the best thing you can have on a mix. And if it sounds good, leave it the way it is. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you want more information about the mixing or another video how I did this more detailed stuff, leave a comment below, and thank you for watching, and cheers.